Hi there, and welcome. This is Elaine Starling. I'm your host of Why 5% Succeed. This is the show where you discover how 5% of businesses really have it all. They've got great clients, fulfilling work, record compensation. And you know what? You can have it too. If you can see it, you can be it. Well, we are going to share some hands-on tactics, techniques, tips, and tools that really help you further your success right now. I'm Elaine Starling. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for Starling Media Services, and we have a boutique marketing firm. We specialize in helping women entrepreneurs. Oops, I'm so sorry. Hang on one second. I'm going to close a couple of files. I haven't done that before. My apologies.
That's okay.
But as I was saying, I am the Chief Innovation Officer for Starling Media Services. And we have a very boutique marketing firm focusing on helping women entrepreneurs become legacy leaders. I have a huge passion for helping other people succeed, and that's why I wrote the book, Why 5% Succeed, and why I host this show. Because I want to make sure that the information you need to transform your business is right at your fingertips. Well, I am so happy to introduce you to today's guest. She's a small business champion. Her name is Nina Kaufman, and Nina is a business lawyer, a speaker, and a strategist. Now, she's no ordinary business lawyer. This is not like any lawyer you've ever talked to before, because she gets it. She gets it so much that Forbes Magazine calls Nina one of 25 most influential women tweeting about entrepreneurship. And the Small Business Administration has named Nina as their Regional Women in Business Champion of the Year. I'm so excited to have Nina join us. Nina, welcome.
Thank you, Elaine. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I've got a ton of questions for you, as you can imagine. So I just want to get started.
Just dive right in.
You know, we have talked quite a bit about what it takes to really get to that top level of success. Now, why is it that you think only about 5% of women-owned businesses are really succeeding at having it all right now? What are the barriers?
Well, I think, Elaine, there are a couple. One of them is, for many women business owners especially, they want to keep it manageable. You know, there's that myth of the manageable business. If I can just control everything, then that's really what I want. I don't want to get too big. But the problem is, and I understand why they want to do that, because they have children requiring their time. They have aging parents. They have a lot of other obligations. They may be of service in their community. And they're thinking, oh my God, if I really build a big business, it's going to require more of my time. And it's actually somewhat counterintuitive. It's that your time shifts. It's not that it's more of your time, it's that it's more valuable time. So, as I say, it's that myth of the manageable business. And when it's all about them, all you've built is a job. You haven't built a business. So I think that's one piece of it. Another important piece, though, and you touched on it in your introduction, is that, as you say, if you can see it, you can be it. And very often, I work with a lot of companies in the marketing, training, and consulting space, and the models that we see for these businesses are not scalable. And these are not necessarily companies earning into the multi-millions. But we worked there and we assume, oh, that's the only way to do it. So we haven't seen, or we're not necessarily aligned with the mentors or the thought leaders who can help us identify what are the other opportunities, and creatively, what might we learn from other industries that could help us build our business. So I think that's, and because these businesses are not scalable, that's why the VC firms aren't interested. That's why they're not necessarily hitting those income thresholds, because the owners have built mostly a job for themselves.
That is so insightful. I really appreciate you providing that level of distinction, because you're right. So often what we see out there in the marketplace are the great big organizations, lots and lots of employees. People are working like mad, but the profit margins seem to be pretty darn slim.
Yeah.
I have seen where certain retail niches, it's got 4% profit margin. Oh, that's really hard to have an incredible lifestyle on a 4% margin. Now, Nina, I really want to talk about your S.C.A.L.E model, because you've come up with a model. You've worked with hundreds and hundreds of businesses, and you've really seen those models that are effective. Could you talk a little bit about scale and what that means to you?
Sure, absolutely. To me, what that means, and I know scale is, it has different meanings in different industries, but the way I'm using it is developing your business in a way that it isn't dependent on you, the owner. And that's a process that takes time. It doesn't poof happen overnight. I mean, if you think, you know, for anybody who has children, which I don't, but I am an aunt to 18, so I have seen lots of children. My husband's Irish. So you see, you know, when you have children, there's a certain amount of nurturing and hand-holding that takes at the beginning. But ideally, you want your children to be independent, that they should have your values and be who you want them to be in the world, but you don't have to hover over them like a helicopter every day. So as I think about scaling, and as I've also gone through my own journey as a business owner, seeing what I did not have in my first business, and studying a lot and delving into the research, what makes for a business you can sell, there are 5 main points that I see a lot of businesses don't have, and that's why I use the acronym S.C.A.L.E, scale.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can, I'll just dive into a very quick overview. S is for what I call seeing differently. That many business owners, they'll come into their companies because, you know what, my boss is an idiot, so I'm going to start my own thing. And what?
True.
And but what they do is they start from today and they work forward. They don't necessarily have a vision for what the business can be. So part of seeing differently is using the eyes of a CEO for your business, instead of just, all right, what can I possibly get done today? So that's S. C, and a very important piece to being able to sell a business, and also, oh my God, just to take a breather, is to figure out what you can do to develop continuity revenue, or continuous revenue. So instead of having those feast or famine projects, what I call living like a caveman, where you go out and you hunt the mammoths, and then once you're done feasting on the mammoths, oh my God, I'm down to my last mammoth bone, I have to go find another mammoth. You want to find a way to make that income stream come through more regularly. So that's another opportunity to scale. A is for automation and delegation. Quite simply, get it off your plate. That's A. L is for leverage tools. That's what are some of the things you can do that are not so one-on-one specific. And that may be, particularly in a coaching realm, speaking to groups. It could be, as I'm doing as well, and a number of other people are, taking my, what I know about scale and creating a digital program around it so that we can reach more than just one person. And another is developing really effective strategic partnerships, so that you're not the one having to go hunt down business all the time. So that's leverage. And then the 5th piece to scale is exit. It's an exit strategy. There was a business owner that I interviewed for my Business Breakthrough podcast the other day, and she said, would you go on vacation without knowing where you're going? Like, how do you even know what to pack? When you get in your car, how do you know which way to turn out of your driveway? Are you going on a plane? Are you going on a train? How do you know? And that's another important piece, that it sort of brings you full circle back to seeing differently. Where are you taking this business? Where do you want to take it, so that you put the building blocks in place, that when you're ready to exit, because you're going to go at some point, when you're ready to exit, it's all in place and boom, you can sell.
So, Nina, we're covering a lot of different things right here.
Yes.
Why is it so important to really think through and figure out how to scale your business right now? It's never been more important than right now, but why is that?
Well, there are probably a couple of reasons, and one of them is that, quite frankly, our economy is, it's a little shaky. It's not as robust in terms of, well, we've got all these customers. So finding a more collaborative way to do business is really, really important. But also, there's a trust and a security factor. As our lives become more uncertain, people want to know that, they may love doing business with you, Elaine, but if they're going to make a commitment to you for some extended period of time, they want to know you're going to have the goods in 6 months' time, a year's time. And as we see our population aging, and where there's more caretaking responsibilities, particularly for women, we may be called away from that business. So in order to make sure it can still function without us, that's where S.C.A.L.E comes in and is so, so important.
I couldn't agree with you more. What I hear you talking about really is also a level of sustainability, that perpetual, it's a business model that you can create around your business so that you are continually adding value to an extended community in a way that allows you a great deal of personal satisfaction and really, really serves your audience. But unless you have that structure in place, you can't create a sustainable business, one that goes on when you want to go on vacation. Or maybe you want to back out of a lot of the day-to-day and you want to bring in somebody who's going to run the day-to-day business for you. Once you understand the structure that really is effective for you, who's to say you couldn't have 3 or 4 different businesses with different people handling the day-to-day, and you can step back and say where you are most effective and you have the most fun.
Yeah,
I love what you're talking about there.
Thank you. And to your point, it may seem counterintuitive, but it's the structure that gives you the freedom. Because if it's all about you and you're wearing different hats and you're constantly shifting and changing and having to shake yours, you don't have freedom. And that's why so many entrepreneurs have gone into business. They want to maximize their personal freedom. They want to maximize their financial freedom. They want to grow as business leaders. You can't do it if you're stuck in the weeds every day.
So true, but I think there's something that entrepreneurs typically struggle with. I see this with my clients all the time. It's that inner perfectionist. It's that inner control freak. It's that gremlin that makes you just want to grab onto everything and supervise everything, and it's so hard to delegate. Could you talk a little bit about what we can do to tame the gremlin?
That's a good one. That is a very good one. And you're right, that sense of, and it's not just an inner perfectionist, because as a lifelong perfectionist, I will come to that one. There's also, for those of us who want to operate our businesses with integrity, that sense of my word is my bond. So if I'm saying to others, others will handle it, what happens if there are repercussions? So I think there are a couple of ways to look at it. The first is, I would say, to have within your orbit some kind of strategic team, because I know left to my own devices, I'm going to get back down into the micromanagement. And it's very important to have someone to remind me to say, girlfriend, you got to step back, because if you keep stepping in, then the people you're delegating to will never learn it. They'll never get it. I think also an important part of delegating is you need to be very clear about what it is that is being delegated and what's and the standards that are required. And I think that's also where some business owners may fall short, that there's so much in their head that they haven't figured out a way to translate that into either an operations manual or a brand guide, something to give, let's say you, if I'm delegating to you, the opportunity to know what are the parameters here. Where do I have leeway? What's an absolute? What are words that I can use, can't use? What's the scope of my authority? And until business owners, again, are really willing to pull back and see their role differently, that their role is less to get the work done as a CEO and more to make sure you're properly managing the team and creating the strategic vision for the team that gets it done, then you're going to be stuck in that. So I think that's where having your own coaches and strategic team to keep you focused, but also getting your own clarity is important. I mean, we could do a whole subject on delegation. Yeah.
Absolutely. I could keep you on that topic for a while, because I think that it is a common challenge that most business owners struggle with. Now, I don't know if you've ever read a great book by Tim Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek.
Yes,
but
I have.
One of the things that I really loved in that book was where Tim described how he collaborates with a virtual assistant or whoever he's working with so that they jointly come up with the standards. Because he tries to tell them how he wants them to approach a project. But, you know, there's always a question that comes up or there's always a unique situation. So anytime there's something that somebody can't answer on their own, then he gets involved enough to say, okay, this is how we answer and how we address any situation that meets these parameters. And over time, you end up developing those standards. And it's so important to establish the standards. You might also call them processes.
Yes.
But your processes have certain standards. So as you develop those, then you're much more confident about delegating. It's much easier for you to delegate. And I am going to ask you, I know we could do an entire show just on delegating, but if there was one or two things that just about every single business owner on the planet really ought to be delegating, have you noticed one or two things that are just kind of like a no-brainer?
No-brainer stuff. I would say that, and again, there are just so many things that could possibly be delegated. What you want to look at, and one way to determine for your own business what can and should be delegated, is to do a time journal. Look at all of the things and all the ways that you're spending your time, and then from there evaluating what's on your A list, what's absolutely most important, and what's on the D list that's really not so important. So, for example, things that don't absolutely require your time and creativity are things that you ultimately want to let go of. So it may be, let's say, reconfirming appointments. Do you personally need to be reconfirming an appointment by email? Probably not. Also scheduling phone calls that may or may not be necessary if you have someone else who is part of your team and can handle that scheduling for you. So usually it tends to fall in the realm of administration, bookkeeping. Oh gosh. Okay, Elaine, did I just lose you? Well, I see it says live, so I'll just keep talking. So these things are administration, bookkeeping. Usually, unless you are a bookkeeper or you are running an administrative assistant business, sorry, I am just checking to make sure Elaine is not calling in. Because, and this is another thing too, technology. Unless you're an absolute genius at technology, then very often it's not really the best use of your time to be trying to figure out what's going on with your computer having a glitch, the internet goes out, you're in the middle of a hangout, and that's not working so well. So to have someone else there to handle those things. An important caveat that I would say is when you first start delegating, the tendency of many business owners, and believe me, I've done this, is to abdicate, not delegate. It's to say, oh, I can't stand having this thing on my plate. I can't stand answering all my emails and doing that first triage of emails. Can't stand it. I'm going to hand that off to somebody else. But they haven't, like we were just discussing, given the person to whom they're delegating the parameters and that sense of, well, how do you respond to an email? What's the language that you use? What are the ways that you want people to respond? Within what time frame do you respond? So all of these things become, this may be Elaine. Hello? All right, okay, so I'm still talking, or am I not? Oh, okay, so what shall we do? And you were totally frozen. Okay, so do we start again? What do we do? Okay. I'm fine. I mean, I have some time flexibility. So if we start again from, hi, I'm your host, Elaine Starling, I'm fine. Okay. What's more of a feeling? Love it. Okay.
Well, I've never been pushed out of my Hangout before, so that was a very interesting experience. And unfortunately, Nina got bumped as well, so I'm going to send her the link, and Nina will rejoin us, and then we will pick back up where we started. How exciting. Well, I appreciate everybody for standing by, because this makes life a little more exciting, doesn't it? Okay, sending Nina the link. And send. All right. Okay, well, here we are. Lots going on. Very exciting. But we're talking about what do you do to scale your business? And what do you do when life throws you a little bit of a curveball, the way technology has been throwing me a little bit of a curveball today? Well, you know what? You don't worry about it. You just keep going. It's not that big a deal. People understand that mistakes happen, that things beyond your control, like Google, might suddenly have a fit of the vapors and go out on you, but that's okay. You can come right back and keep going and keep enjoying the topic of the moment. So thanks for hanging in there with us. Nina will be back with me in just one moment. So what we were talking about is how important it is to have a plan for your business. And by planning ahead, it's like taking a vacation. You know where you want your business to go. You know what kind of an experience you want your business to have. And there's Nina. Yay. So Nina, we both kind of froze and we both were filling in. So I don't know what actually happened during our little Google hiccup.
Okay.
So I'd like to start over where we were talking about delegating. Because there's, as a business owner, you really have to let go of the control freak and you have to be able to delegate. Are there one or two things that just about every single business probably ought to delegate?
Yes, and usually it's in the realm of administration, bookkeeping, technology, whatever doesn't absolutely require you and your creativity. You want that to be on your list of things to delegate. And I like to say, I don't know if you remember Kathy Griffin, the comedian, had this whole show, My Life on the D List. What you want to do is you want to take a look at where you're spending your time and see what's on your D list. And that'll show up either in, oh, wow, do I really need to be reconfirming my own appointments? Or just in terms, or something maybe just taking way too long, like, do I actually need to be doing my own editing of videos? Maybe not. Another good indication is if you're spending time doing something and you've got this knot in your stomach like, oh, God almighty, I just do not want to do this. I have so no interest in this. Please, somebody take it off my plate. That's like an emotional reaction. That's like, yeah, that's a good thing to look at possibly getting off your plate. But to our point earlier about delegation, it's not enough just to throw, to abdicate, to throw it onto somebody else's plate and say, you do it. You want to give at least some thought to, all right, if you're reconfirming appointments, how far in advance? What kind of contact information do you want to make available if there's a last-minute problem? What's the language that you want people to use? What if you can't get in touch with them? So within each of these things, there is a system. And again, delegating doesn't mean not paying attention to it.
That's very true. That's very true. I love the way you describe that, because you're absolutely right. It makes a huge difference. And I'd like to share a story that I have about delegating, because one of my least favorite tasks is having to do my taxes. I can't get out of it. It's not something I can avoid, but man, I hate doing them. I would rather have you just yank my fingernails out. That would be far more fun for me than having to do taxes. So what I did is I found a guy, Bob, who absolutely loves taxes. Getting together with Bob, it always reminds me of playing with a little puppy dog. Have you ever seen a dog, you're holding the stick, and the dog's just like, can't wait to get the stick. Once you throw the stick, he's so excited. That's like Bob. I get together with Bob. He's going through the motions, the how are you, how are the kids, what's going on. The whole time, I can see him just dying to get his hands on my numbers. He can't wait. He played with my taxes. He can't wait. And his enthusiasm, his passion for his expertise makes something that's a chore for me become more fun. He helps me focus so I don't waste a lot of time. I can just be effective where I can add value, and I can count on him to direct me to those areas where I can really make a difference so he can really do a good job for me. So when I think about delegating, absolutely, take a look at the tasks that it just doesn't make you very much money, and it's very easy to find someone else that you can get help with, like scheduling appointments. But then there's also the other tier of things that you have to do from a business standpoint, your bookkeeping, your taxes, other things that maybe are not your favorite action items, but they have to happen anyway, and find experts whose enthusiasm and knowledge really inspire you to do them when you don't usually like doing them.
Well, and you raise a really good point, though, because when you talk about with taxes, and I will say this as a lawyer, there are certain areas that require a technical or professional expertise where you do not want to get it wrong. So there too, absolutely, with with the bookkeeping, the taxes, legal work, insurance, often not things that you want to do yourself, and that's why it's so important as you're growing and scaling to make sure you really have a brain trust. I mean, I call it the Fantastic Five. You want to know you've got an attorney, an accountant, an insurance person, a banker for financing, and some kind of strategic coach to help you hold up the mirror to see what you're doing in your business. People who have that expertise to be able to do for you what you may not be able to do as well for yourself.
That's great. Thank you. That's an excellent summary of everything that you need. Now, one of the things that you talked about with was automation as well as delegation. So I'd love to hear about some of your favorite automation tools that you're using that you found are really effective.
I paused because because tools are great as long as you're using them for the right reasons. So you don't, a hammer isn't going to help you where you need a saw. It's just not. And with a lot of tools around automation, there's unfortunately a garbage in, garbage out process. So before you say, oh yes, I want time trade to do all my scheduling, you need to become familiar with the program to know what exactly you need it to do for you, what are your cost parameters around it. I upgraded actually to Infusionsoft for a lot of my contact management and sending out newsletters. And part of why I did that is knowing where I wanted to go in my business, and that certain people with whom I wanted to have strategic partners, they love Infusionsoft. And they really do not want to work with you if you're not using Infusionsoft. So that was an important strategic decision. But I'll tell you something, I am not sitting at this desk coding everything in Infusionsoft. There's someone on my team who is certified, who, like your Bob, loves, like, yay, campaign sequences. Just put a bullet through my head. So my role is to help Brian think through what is the process that I want. But like Henry Ford said, or I'll paraphrase, something like, if you're always the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I don't want Brian just to be an order taker. I want Brian to have the expertise to be able to come back to me and say, you know what, Nina, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but that may not be the best way to go about it, and to offer those suggestions, because I wouldn't have thought of it. That's all my training. So very important as you're thinking about delegating, to your point earlier, of the different ways that you want to be able to solicit input, like Tim Ferriss did from his team, how things can be done better.
That is great. I love the way you tackled that question, because, yeah, one of the examples I was going to share was time trade, but you're absolutely right, because I use Infusionsoft too. And I've been chatting with my Infusionsoft guy, because there are some scheduling tools that work with Infusionsoft and some that don't. So as your business starts to grow, and to your earlier point, you've got to have a vision for your business of where you want it to go. Because when you do, then discovering which tools is much, much easier, because you've already got certain criteria. It's got to be able to do these specific things for you, and it needs to be able to work with these other related tools. So it becomes a lot easier for you to evaluate the marketplace and decide what you're going to actually use. But automation has never been easier. When I started in my business, I was in the corporate world, and then I did a lot of consulting, and I've had my business for going on like 19 years now.
Oh, congratulations.
There were not a lot of automation tools.
No.
And now it's a lot easier. There are things like lead pages, leadpages.com, where it automatically creates the pages for you, and your web pages. There's all different kinds of tools that, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, they're very effective. It's drag and drop, super easy, but you've got to know what you're trying to accomplish first. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think back to automation also, thinking about what is your most urgent need now that can free up your time. So it may not be Infusionsoft or lead pages. Maybe it is something as simple as a scheduling platform, so that becomes integrated and you're spending a little less time, and then that frees you up to do higher level tasks. So it doesn't have to be, all the big things all at once. You start step by step with what's sucking on you now.
So true. Now, when you're talking about L for leverage,
yes,
could you tell us a little bit about, you kind of high profile on some of the things that we can leverage, but obviously different people are at different stages in their business.
Sure.
Is there sort of a hierarchy or a checklist of different things that we can leverage in our businesses, depending upon where we are right now?
That's a great question, Elaine. I don't believe that there's necessarily a hierarchy. I think some of it depends on, again, what ultimately is your exit? Where do you want to go? What kind of business do you want to have? There's a story about Peter Drucker talking to Jim Collins, saying to him, you can build a great company or you can build great ideas, but not both. Now, maybe you'll disagree, and that could become a whole other hangout to talk about that. But assuming it's true, when you look at Jim Collins, who's the author of Good to Great and has sold tens of millions of books, you might be surprised to find out that he has a staff of fewer than 5 full-time.
Wow.
So he chose to focus on great ideas and using the books and that kind of information spread as his form of leverage. For others, they may want, you may want to be queen, and you may want to be queen of a big fiefdom. So the idea of training and growing people and creating that next generation of brilliant strategic minds like Elaine Starling, that may be more what makes your heart sing. And so you're going to build your company in a very different way, and the leverage tools you will use may be very different. So if you're looking for a larger company, instead of perhaps writing a book or creating a digital program, you may prefer to do larger scale events where you can train people en masse. So again, so much of it comes down to who you are and where you want to see your company go.
That is really, really a smart perspective, because you're right. What is that outcome? What is that incredibly rewarding experience for you, the business owner? That's going to determine what tools you use to leverage in your business. How you choose to leverage your expertise is really dependent upon the direction you want to take your business.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I love the way you said that. Now, you talked about exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of business owners jump into having their own business for a variety of reasons. They can't find a regular job, they're sick of their boss, situations beyond their control push them into having to figure out how to get some money in the door, and so they just get started, right?
Right.
And so I understand that you're encouraging us to have a vision for the business, and it starts apparently with the exit strategy. Could you talk a little bit about what that exit strategy might look like and how you think about what an exit strategy is?
Absolutely. And I think it makes an important difference between people who want to build a business that essentially can stand on its own legs, and people who are more comfortable having what I'll call a lifestyle business, that as long as it's making enough money for as long as I'm able to do the work, then they will, then that's the kind of business, in quotes, that they are looking for. So you have just frozen, and I'm not sure whether that's another bomb or I think I'm going to call you.
But I can't tell if somebody.
No, I hear you.
I'm so sorry. You were frozen
That's
for a second
okay.
there. So if you could answer that question again.
I sure will. I'll start again. Absolutely. So exit strategy. And I think it makes a big difference between, do you want what I will call a lifestyle business, something that, as long as it can pay for your lifestyle, as long as you're able to do it, then you're okay with that, in which case you don't need to be thinking about scale. But for people who say, you know what, maybe tomorrow I can't do what I need to do. I'm interviewing somebody tomorrow where he was seriously ill for 6 months. And that was a real wake-up call for him to say, whoa. And he was very young at the time. I think he was 29. So at that point, this isn't an end-of-life thing. This is a young guy who said, if this can happen to me now, I need to plan for a business that can really function and have the systems in place where I don't need to be micromanaging it all the time. So as you're thinking about an exit strategy, some of it is, ultimately and it's not just about the money, it's what is the contribution you would like this company to make in the world? What is the end result, for example, in the terms of the transformation, and it may be numbers of people that you've affected, but also how it has helped an economy or your particular target market, what people have gained or learned when you think about the end result of working with you and multiply that by 1,000 or 100,000. What does that look like in the world? And then being able to work backwards from that, to say, well, to achieve that result, I need to have 100,000 clients, and these may be the price points at which I charge. But so if you're able to reverse engineer it, then you're able to see today what do you need to build toward, and what are the systems that need to be in place to gradually pull you out of the dependency equation.
That's a really great way of thinking about it. I love the way you're starting with the end in mind, beginning with the end in mind, famous quote, and really understanding what success looks like to you, whether that's lifestyle, whether that's the clients that you just really enjoy serving, whatever that is for you, starting there and then backing up to see what has to be in place in order for you to have that kind of an experience. And I love your example of you never know what life is going to throw at you.
No, you don't.
I was not blessed with children, but I was blessed with parents. And my husband and I have a flexible enough lifestyle where we've been able to help 3 of our parents through all the doctor's appointments and all the challenging issues at end of life, and we've helped them transition. We're down to my mom. And if we didn't have a flexible business, we wouldn't have been able to be there for them.
Right,
so
exactly.
It really makes a huge difference. And I just so appreciate your thoughts on that.
Right. And if I can jump into just two other little things, I don't want to say that money should not be part of the equation. That is very important. So as you think about the lifestyle you have or you want to lead, there too, you're going to need to do some money calculations to think about what is it that you will truly need if you say, all right, fine, I'm going to cash out, or what do I want to be able to generate along the line. But it's not the only consideration, and very often it's not enough to keep us passionate about wanting to stay on this journey.
That is great. Now, Nina, we've talked a lot about scaling your business.
Yes.
How hard is this? Like, is this going to take forever? Is this a humongous, is this climbing Mount Everest, or is this climbing, walking around the block? How hard is this going to be?
Let me put it this way. Well, obviously the fact that I hesitated is, all right, it's not a walk in the park. So let's be really clear. It is not a walk in the park. I think that scaling is a habit. It can absolutely be done. In fact, I interviewed a business owner yesterday who created a consulting company with the express intent of selling it. She did that within 8 years, and the sales process took less than 4 months, which is very fast from first opening the book, soliciting the buyers to close. But the thing is, she knew from the outset what it is her goal was, so it made it a lot easier. And when you know where you're going, so if you know I'm going to travel from New York City to Vancouver, I don't have to worry about, well, am I going to take Route 66? No, because that's going to take me in the southern United States, and I want to get to the Northwest and into Canada. So it makes it easier to determine which opportunities are right for you and which ones aren't. But it does take a certain fortitude. And you talk about mountain climbing, it does help to have a Sherpa, if you will, with you on that journey, because it can seem overwhelming, or sometimes you don't always know which things to focus on. And that's where, through my $1 Million Roadmap program, we try to help that Sherpa process so that, yes, you stay with it instead of throwing up your hands and saying, well, it didn't happen overnight.
So, Nina, tell us a little bit more about your program, because obviously there's a fair amount to scaling. It's not that it's hard to understand, it can be challenging to do, and being able to get that feedback, that input, that guidance, that direction is really, really useful. So could you tell us a little bit about your roadmap?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the roadmap covers the S.C.A.L.E system that I outlined, and a lot of it, frankly, came from my own experience with my first business, which was another law firm, when things were absolutely going down the toilet with my business partner. I went to a business valuation expert to say, look, I got to get out. Help me. Here are the numbers. Here's what it all looks like. I want to come up with a fair figure. And essentially, he held up his Dunkin' Donut with the chocolate sprinkles, and he said, you see this here donut? And I said, yes. He said, well, what you got is the hole. Oh, and I didn't understand why, because I didn't, in law school they didn't teach you any of these principles of a self-sustaining business. So through the $1 Million Roadmap, it's to say to people, hey, wherever you are on your entrepreneurial journey, you can always take a different track. So nothing is ever set in stone. But there are going to be some shifts, and it may be a little uncomfortable. So the first foundational piece is always, what is your vision, and how can you see yourself in a different role for your business? And then looking at, well, what might be some of the ways that you would want to scale, whether it's through continuity revenue, automating, building out a team, other leverage opportunities. And in the program itself, there's a workbook to take people through exercises, so it's not just an intellectual exercise, but you got stuff to do and to think about. And we have ongoing group coaching calls. So there too, if you're stuck, the idea is to not be isolated in your room alone with the shame and the frustration and the, what do I do? It's to be in a community of people where we're all looking to achieve freedom however, and success however we choose to define it.
That is great. Well, I know that you've got a website where we can go and get some additional information, and it sounds like you've got a really interesting report for us.
Yes.
That URL I have down is http://businessexponential.com/pod-report. We're going to put that in the comments so that it's really easy for people to find, but that's where they can go to get your pod report. Yes. And that has more information about your $1 million roadmap.
Yes, it does, and it also talks about, it kind of outlines for anyone who's like, oh wow, Nina, this is so much information, I don't even know where to start. The report is called 10 Steps to a $1 Million Business, and it's looking at what, just look at what's in your business now, and what might be some of those things that you want to change. So, for example, is each client a one-off? If they are, that might be a tip that continuity revenue can help you. If you're, again, if you're isolated and alone, or you think, oh, my business is all about me, that may be an opportunity to say, maybe a little shift in focus and in mindset will help me reach the larger heights and the bigger opportunities that I'm looking for. So yes, at businesexponential.com/pod report, that's where people can get that. And it's free.
Oh, Nina, this has been such a fabulous conversation.
Thank you.
I cannot thank you enough, because really getting your head straight about how you can scale your business, there are so many tools and resources that can help you get where you want to go. But first you have to know what's possible for you. And I think Nina has done a fabulous job at outlining that for us.
Thank you.
Is there any last comment that you'd like to make? Any question I didn't ask you that you think we really ought to cover here?
Well, just a little bit about what the inspiration for all of this was, because I can't leave this without talking a little bit about my husband, because he was part of the inspiration for it. As I was, again, business partnership, gone its way, and I'm trying to think about what's next. What am I going to build? But I said, this time I'm doing it in a way that I can scale it and I can sell it. I'm not repeating history again. And I'm racking my brains around, well, what do I want to build? Because I didn't know what else was out there. So we're watching television, and the remote control is firmly glued to his hand, and he says, hey, babe, what do you want to watch? And I said, I don't know. What are my options? And then I realized I didn't know what my options were. So part of the goal of Business Exponential and also my podcast, Business Breakthrough, is to profile those service business owners who have created different options, and to be able to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I do want something with continuity revenue. Maybe I'd prefer to build out a larger team. Maybe I just want to leverage a lot of IP and do it online. But just to know what are the options so that you're not only building a business and stepping into a leadership role in it that can transform you, but you're also on your road to achieving the personal and financial freedom that you've wanted by being an entrepreneur. So that's the background behind Business Exponential.
That is so wonderful, and I really appreciate your commitment to the rest of us to show up and share your brilliance, your ideas with us. So thank you so much.
And thank you for having the platform, for enabling all of us to do that.
Well, if anybody has any questions for Nina or for me, feel free to post your questions, and we'll be sure to get back to you with more information. This is Elaine Starling wishing you excellence, abundance, and fulfillment in all you do. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.